Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Women Affairs, Dr. Mrs. Keshinru. Senior Special Assistant to the President in charge of Media, Publicity and Special Duties, Mr. Tunde Rahman. Senior Special Assistant to the President in charge of Digital Media, Mr. Ortega Ogra. Senior Special Assistant to the President in charge of Print Media, Mr. Abdulaziz. And sitting on the floors, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Tope Ajayi. My colleagues, members of the State House Press Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you once again to our weekly activity here in the State House. With strategic things to do, or with strategic portfolios to speak to Nigerians about what they're doing right, what they are not doing right, and how they can better improve on their mandates. Today, we have one of the youngest faces in the cabinet. Imaan Sulaiman-Ibrahim has 2 master's degrees in administration and in management. And before being made a minister, it might interest you to know that he was Director General of NAPTIP, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. From there, she became the Federal Commissioner in charge of National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. At the onset of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, she was sworn in as the Minister of State for Police Affairs. She survived the cabinet reshuffle and was elevated to the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development. Saturday, March 8th, will be the International Women's Day, and is celebrated all over the world. This afternoon, the Honorable Nigeria, and for the men folk, she's surrounded there by men. And of course, unfolds some of the plans of our ministry, the targets she has, and we will also ask her how she's been doing. On this note, I would like to welcome the Honorable Minister, and please go ahead and speak to Nigerians.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I start by recognizing the presidential media team. I will use my brother, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, as the point of reference to recognize all of you and to commend you for a job well done. May I also use the opportunity to recognize the Presidential Media Corps and thank you for all the work that you're doing. In this little room, whatever happens in this house, everybody sees it. Continue the good work, well done. May I also use the opportunity to recognize the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Dr. Mariam Ismaila Kenshiro. Thank you so much for having me here. Just as Mr. Ajayi rightly said, tomorrow will be the International Women's Day of 2025. And I've been telling people that it's not only the International Women's Day, but also the International Women's Month and year, because this year we mark 30 years after the Beijing Declaration of Action. So it's a very important year for women globally. Let me start by welcoming you all to this special briefing. It is International Women's Day 2025, and for me, it is critical. It's a critical checkpoint in our journey towards gender equality. I was on air this morning on NTA, and a critical question was asked. Are we making progress towards gender equality? I took a pause, and it dawned on me that the very fact that we are still asking this question is evident that our work is far from over, both in terms of communicating progress, but also in terms of accelerating action, which is the theme for the 2025 International Women's Day. Let us ask ourselves here, are we truly making progress? For me, it's a yes. In some areas, we're moving fast enough. But if we ask ourselves, are we moving fast enough? For me, it's a no. The gains we have made, are they substantial? That remains uncertain. The hard truth is that if we can continue at our current pace, we are decades away from achieving full gender equality in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Just to be clear about the reality, it's a global challenge, as the world is off track to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 5, SDG 5 on gender equality by 2030. But as a country, we must double down on our efforts. As you're aware, this year, we also celebrate 30 years of existence of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs as a vital institutional mechanism for the advancement of the Nigerian gender agenda. An institutional legacy of the Beijing Platform for Action, one of the most transformative global frameworks for the gender equality. Distinguished guests, members of the press, we cannot talk about progress without acknowledging those that have paved the way. As we mark this milestone, we must honor the fearless women who stood against oppression and injustice, from the pre-independence trailblazer like Chief Margaret Ebo, Chief Mrs. Fumilola Ransom Kuti, and Hajia Gambo Sawaba, to the thousands of women who laid down their lives in protests, such as the Aba Women's Riot of 1929 and the Eba Women's Revolt of 1947. We also remember the legacies of Her Excellency Dr. Mariam Abacha, who led the Nigerian delegation to the 1995 Beijing Conference, and Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida, whose Better Life program for rural women revolutionized grassroots empowerment. Their work reminds us that change is not given, it is demanded and earned through persistence and resilience. Today, I serve as the Nigerian Minister of Women Affairs. I do so with the knowledge that the ministry has come of age, standing at the forefront of policy formulation, advocacy, and institutional reforms for gender equality. Our modern headquarters may be a physical symbol of progress, but the real work lies in translating policies into action, ensuring that women, children, the vulnerable, and families have access to justice, economic empowerment, and equal opportunities. Distinguished guests, members of the press, the journey is far from over. There are 4 dimensions to the issues that continues to confront us that we are now working to address quickly. First, the legal and policy framework. While Nigeria has made significant progress in enacting gender-responsive laws, such as the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, the VAP Act of 2015, and the Child Rights Act of 2003, full implementation remains a challenge. As of today, 35 states have domesticated the VAP Act, while 34 states have adopted the Child Rights Act. A step in the right direction, but not yet enough. We need full compliance, effective enforcement, and accountability to ensure that rights enshrined in these laws are lived reality for every Nigerian woman and child. Second, economic empowerment. Women drive Nigeria's informal economy, owning 41% of micro, small, and medium enterprises. However, access to finance, markets, and digital literacy remains a barrier to scaling their businesses. More than 94% of women still lack access to formal credit despite proven ability to reinvest in their families and communities. We must close the gender financing gap, expand opportunities in trade, technology, and digital skills, and provide structured support for women entrepreneurs. Under the Nigerian for Women Project Scale Up, which we just commenced, we will be reaching a minimum of 4.5 million women nationwide to bridge the gap. The pilot phase of the Nigerian for Women project saw 450 women in the rural areas, in the grassroots, being empowered with so many cluster groups, and the investment made for this group of women was 12 million, but they saved $4.5 million. $12 million was being invested in the pilot phase in 6 states. So now we're about to commence the scale-up, and about 4.5 million women will be beneficiaries. And the project is worth $500 million. It's done in collaboration with the federal government through the Ministry of Women Affairs, the state governments, and the World Bank. We also launched the Maosara initiative recently with the support of Wema Bank. As we speak today, the skill development program is ongoing, and we are targeting 500 women in the grassroots. We are looking at economic empowerment, sector by sector, because women are leading already in most of the sectors. So we'll see that we address those issues that are systematic barriers. Thirdly is the gender-based violence and social norms. Over 30% of Nigerian women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence. 1 in 4 girls have been sexually abused before the age of 18. We recently witnessed the tragic death of Emric Efang in Cross River State, and Muti at Sholola in Ogun State, and the heartbreaking case of the 24-year-old Salome Adaidu, killed in Nasarawa State by her boyfriend. We also saw the case of the mother of 6, whose husband allegedly poured petrol on her and set her ablaze in Anambra State, and the women whose finger were being chopped off by her spouse in Dede Community, Federal Capital Territory, amongst others. These are stark reminders of the urgent need to sustain the declaration of the state of emergency on gender-based violence embarked upon in 2020 by the Nigerian Governors Forum in the wake of a high number of such cases amidst the lockdown of COVID-19. These are isolated incidents, but part of a larger pattern of violence that must be decisively addressed are harmful traditional practices, such as the child marriages and the female genital mutilation. It still persists in our country today, with Nigeria ranking 3rd globally in child marriage prevalence, statistics that should alarm us all. The ministry remains unwavering in its commitment to strengthening the survivor-centered services, and we are pushing for the review of the Child Rights Act and the VAP Act, and we're creating safe spaces across the country. This is not just a women's issue, it's a national crisis that undermines our collective development. Fourth is the political representation and leadership. Women remain vastly underrepresented in decision-making spaces. In our 10th National Assembly, only 4 out of 109 senators and 17 out of 360 House of Representatives members are women. If you look at the last assembly, the 9th Assembly, we had 9 out of 109 senators. So there's a decline. This stark imbalance is not reflecting a progressive democracy. We must accelerate efforts towards political inclusion, ensuring that women have a seat at the table, not as a token, but as equal partners in governance and development. Distinguished guests and our friends in the media, accelerating action demands that we confront harsh realities facing women and girls in Nigeria today. For too long, our interventions have been largely dependent on donor funding, an approach that, while helpful, is either sustainable nor sufficient. True transformation requires national-owned investment. This is why we commend His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, who has, for the first time in the history of the ministry, significantly raised its budget. This landmark decision signals a new era of government commitment to institutionalizing women's empowerment and a core pillar of national development. With these increased resources, we will prioritize the resuscitation of one of the ministry's legacy projects, the National Electronic Dashboard, launched as part of the collaboration between the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and the European Union under the Spotlight Initiative, to provide comprehensive data to help tackle gender-based violence in the November of 2022. We will expand programs on women's economic empowerment, promote digital skills acquisition for girls and boys, scale up family cohesion programs, revitalize child protection and participation, and will unlock new opportunities for women through the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTAC, which has 2 protocols that addresses issues that concern women. We will also prioritize legislative advocacy, the economic empowerment of women, girls' education, and the fight against gender-based violence. Let me also quickly say that in a few days' time, I will lead a diverse delegation of Nigerians to the UN Commission on the Status for Women, the CSW, the 69th CSW, the largest global gathering on women's rights. Our goal is clear: to showcase Nigerians' progress, to forge stronger global partnerships, and to amplify our collective commitment to gender justice and women's economic advancement, and empowerment. The task before us is immense, but I believe that with our collective will and effort, we can accelerate action for a more inclusive and equitable Nigeria. My charge to us is that let us take the opportunity of the International Women's Day as a time to strengthen our unity, determination, and unwavering commitment to tackling the legacy challenges that have held us from realizing the full potential of our Nigerian women and children. Let me end by thanking His Excellency, our leader, our father, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for prioritizing women's issues like never before. Let me also specially thank Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, for the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the immense support and leadership we continue to enjoy in the sector. I also would like to extend my deepest appreciation to all the development partners, civil society organizations, and advocates, and every stakeholder in this space who continue to push the boundaries for gender equality and equity. To every Nigerian, woman and child, your time is now. Stand up, step forward, and claim your place in shaping Nigerians' future. I thank you all for listening. May God bless you all, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister. While the Honorable Minister delivered her address, the directors, a few directors in the Ministry of Women Affairs also joined us. Mr. Andrew Madugu is here. Okay, you're welcome. And Director of Press there, Mr. MM Offon. Okay, yes. There are other special aides of the Honorable Minister. Seated, please, if you are there, raise up your hand. Let's see you. Let's acknowledge your presence. Okay, you're welcome. Yes, you've listened to the Honorable Minister. Her achievements, what she's planning. It's now time for you to ask questions. But there's a caveat on the questions. This is not the National Assembly. Restrict your questions. Please, no questions on National Assembly. They are sub judice. Yes, sub judice. We don't want to be accused of flouting the law. Focus on International Women's Day. Okay, please.
You can ask. Every question is valid. Let's just be mindful of time. But just be kind to me. You know it's International Women's Day.
Okay. We usually take the questions 4 at a go. Okay. Then we'll see how it goes. Punch takes the first question. It's not enough. You have the second batch of questions. It's okay. Don't worry, the men will not ask your questions. Who was starting? Am I overruled?
No, leave them like this. Honorable Minister, good afternoon, and SSAs, good afternoon. My name is Musbah Wahab. I work with NTA. I like the way you ended your comments by asking Nigerian women to stand up and build the nation. And you also talked about economic empowerment for women, which you mentioned all the programs you are having for them. But I want to know, are you also considering psychological empowerment for women? You ask them to stand up, but from what we see in Nigeria, women are just asking for their rights. They are not working towards it. They are not really standing up and show Nigerians that they can really do all of these things that men are doing. What empowerment program are you doing for them or organizing for them to empower them psychologically? Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Aon Dunainga. I report for Silverbird Television. So my question is, in a sense, closely related to what Ms. Bauer asked, but I want to narrow it down to the issues of politics that you raised, because you touched on the fact that we have less women in the House of, in the Senate. But here's my question. There's a school of thought that think that power is taken and not given. Now, just like we have the next election cycle around the corner, though in 2027, what is your ministry doing specifically to empower women so that they participate or function in the political scene effectively? Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Stephen Angbulu, and I write for the Punch newspapers. So I covered NAPTIP when you served at DG, and I still cover NAPTIP till now. And based on recent data, we understand that NAPTIP, Immigration, and some other agencies intercepted about 1,200 girls who were being taken out of the country for various purposes, including human trafficking. Being Minister of Women Affairs, of course, this affects men and women too, but the statistics over the years shows that women are the most vulnerable in this category. I understand that your elevated position now gives you a soft spot, coming from your NAPTIP days, to fighting for women in this area. What active position are you taking, together with that agency whom you no longer head, but you're on a bigger role now? Are you doing something with NAPTIP to ensure that these numbers are reduced? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Umar Aliu. I report for Code Radio. My question is, our society is based on customs and values, and some of these values impede with the realities on ground vis-a-vis, how did this, our customs and tradition, impede your goals of achieving gender equality and vis-a-vis? Second one, please. Please, sir, please. Just small one, sir.
Can I respond? Okay. Thank you so much for those questions. You know, they are all valid. The first question was from Musbao NTA, my dear brother. So, you know, basically, when it comes to women's empowerment, especially in political participation or in leadership, it's very important that we start from the mentoring level. First of all, you said it rightly, that the power is not self-allocating, in the words of Mr. President, that you have to be deserving of it. You have to also aspire. My late father says three things: that when you're sure you qualify, you indicate your interest. When you indicate your interest, you kind of pray about it and actively work towards it. And I think that is what we must always recognize, that it is not an entitlement. Because you're a woman, you should not be given anything freely. You should also compete. So we want to get women to a stage whereby they're able to compete fairly. When I met the First Lady, what she said was, I'll go and put money in women's hand. When women are economically empowered, they can contest, they can be able to engage the stakeholders, they can be able to serve their communities. How do you serve your community if you don't have the resources? Do you understand? So the political efforts generally are very costly. They kind of have cost implications, and sometimes women are at a disadvantage. So we have a strategy working with a lot of caucus, women that are already in politics, so that we can mentor women, so that they can begin to serve their communities. An entry point for us is from the party politics. When women are also represented in the party structures, not just in appointed or in elective positions, but in the party administration. When we have a director of finance in the party that is a woman, more women will go there. Those women that are in the political space will begin to even transit from being administrators in the party to even aspirants. So we want to see women visible in those spaces. That's an entry point. But we also have plans around advocacy so that there's awareness in the need to have women, on the table. It's not to compete, but it's to have, like a shared perspective, to have a balanced approach to problem solving. Women and men think differently. So let's not see it as a competition. We're collaborating as partners so that we can be able to achieve the level of national development that we require as a country. And also would also come from the policy angle. The gender policy has a requirement. We have the Beijing Declaration of 35% affirmative action. So we'll continue to lobby and to engage the relevant stakeholders so that we achieve it. But times are gone where you bully people to give you things. The last time we took the gender bill to the National Assembly, we blocked the gate. There's 3 entrances to the National Assembly. When you block one, they're going to use the other 2. So this time around, we're going to do it differently. We'll do it in a very responsible manner. We'll mentor women so that when they get there, they also are able to serve and open doors for other more women to come into the space. The second question was around the same thing, the political participation of women. Yes, we've seen a decline. And as we do the stock taking 30 years after Beijing, it's very important that we empower women. When you empower women, you elevate them. We do political education for them. So women don't even know how to register in a political party. They don't know what to do to be able to aspire and win. So when we mentor people that are already there, members of the National Assembly, each one mentor 1, each one mentor 10, will be able to get there in an accelerated manner. The third question was around abuse and human trafficking. So as the lead protection ministry for the country, and also the human face of government, it's very important that we recognize that achieving protection issues is multi-sectoral. It requires many players. So the ministry alone can't do it. We have to work with the law enforcement. We have to work with legal for prosecution. NAPTIP has the powers to prosecute human trafficking issues. Everybody has a role to play. So I think when we intensify advocacy, we'll be able to achieve. And it all boils down to economic empowerment. Human trafficking has push and pull factors. People japa for economic reasons, predominantly. That's why they become vulnerable and easily accessible to criminal minds, and that way they run into spaces of abuse. So we must come from the economic empowerment angle, from the grassroots. When you're economic empowered and you're aware that this kind of vulnerabilities do exist, then you can be able to protect yourself. So yes, we work closely with NAPTIP. I look forward to us strengthening our collaboration with NAPTIP and also sensitizing people in the enforcement space and the legal space. I remember there was a NAPTIP. Annually, we do trainings for judges so that they can recognize the VAP Act and the TP Act. That way, they're able to even accelerate when it comes to prosecution. And I think that is what we must continue to do. Because if you look at the SGBV issues, they're very slow when it comes to the administration of justice. So we must work with the lawyers that are dealing with these cases so that they understand the act very closely. But even these legal instruments that we speak about are very outdated. So right now there's an ongoing review effort to ensure that we have relevant piece of legal instruments that have captured emerging issues and are protecting the Nigerian citizens. The last question was around our social challenges. And I think the most predominant one is the gender and the social norms. You don't believe that in this country, we still have strong norms, that discriminate and hinders us from achieving the equality or the equity that we desire as a country. There are still communities that throw away twins when you give birth to them. There are still communities that kill, twins or crippled people or albinos. And this female genital mutilation is still real, especially in some parts of the country. So we're intensifying to ensure that states have their own national action plan towards addressing these issues. These citizens are domiciled in states. And I'm happy that working alongside with partners, we're seeing that states come up with their own action plans and we support them. And that's one thing that you see come up in the next few months, a national action plan on GBV. It's a very sensitive space that has a lot of players. It's very important that we have a national action plan so that we can redirect energy so that we can achieve our national priority in that area. Thank you so much.
Now the women have the floor. Arise. Are you a woman? Arise. Tokwe. Raila. Ralia.
Yes. Yes.
Honorable Minister, we don't have enough women to fill the seat. Imaan will compliment them now. So.
We need more women in the presidential press corps.
So let's start with business team.
No, I mean.
My phone's on
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. Good afternoon, everyone. And just to quickly say to our dear colleague Musbah of NTA, it is not as psychological as you think. It is more economical. Just give us the money. You will see the difference. But Honorable Minister, you've ruled out staggering statistics. Every year, IWD, we celebrate it. It does look like we're doing more talk and less action. So what is going to be different? I mean, 30 years Women Affairs, 30 years of IWD, but we are still here with the same recurring issues. What is the biggest challenge and what will be different? And of course, you know that the issue of the National Assembly would come up. Not about the controversies around while we have -1 woman, but to the issue of sexual harassment that has been raised. We're yet to hear from your office on that matter. We were told by your predecessor about a mobile court that was supposed to help hear cases to accelerate them, because at the bottom of all of this is getting justice for victims. Where do we stand when it comes to getting justice for victims or trials of sexual harassment in Nigeria? Thank you. I'm Adeswa from Arise News.
Honorable Minister Ma'am, good afternoon. SSAs, good afternoon. My name is Tokwe Mustafa and I report for Voice of Nigeria. Just to add a little to what my Arise colleague just talked about, the issue of sexual harassment is a topic that we cannot run away from. It happens in the private sectors, it happens in public sectors. They're in all of the institutions around. Now, what campaign, what do you want to do as regards sensitizing Nigerian women on their rights, their limitations, and what form of support do you intend to give Nigerian women in the public sector, in the private sector, in protecting themselves and in knowing their rights? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Raliat Adenekon, and to everybody, good afternoon. Raliat Adenekon from Classic FM and The Beat, Abuja. My question is with regards what your ministry stands on the gender equality bill. Recognizing the fact that it's been thrown out by the previous assembly, what are you doing to ensure women empowerment and more women participation in politics and achieving 35% affirmative action? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, Honorable Minister, my name is, well, first of all, let me welcome everybody. I stand on the existing protocol that have been declared. Honorable Minister, my name is Tony Ailemen. I write for Business Day. My question has to do with, we've talked about gender equality, we talked about affirmative action, so many things. But I get worried when I see the value system that is displayed by our girls. Certain attitudes that are, somehow demeaning. And I don't know what kind of program that we have in the ministry to do proper orientation in such a way that women will begin to have first of all, self-respect and values for themselves, because that is where you should start from. You go to universities, you move around, you see certain things that sort of bring down the values that we know about women. So I don't know whether you have programs to be able to ensure that there will be good enlightenment and proper upbringing. Thank you.
I believe that should be the last round of questions, Honorable Minister. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your questions. I'd like to start with Adeswa's question. You know, Adeswa, you just like you rightly said, 30 years is 30 years. It means that we've come of age. So we don't have any excuse. We have to deliver for women, for children, for the vulnerable people. What will be different? As you may be aware, without resources, you can't do much. Especially when you have not, when 30 years ago you have not done much. We need certain kind of instruments to be able to offer protection, or to be able to, you know, deliver on our mandate areas. So the first thing we're trying to do is to reposition the ministry and do some kind of institutional strengthening, so that we have capacity when it comes to social workers, when it comes to gender, you know, support officers and things like that. It does not exist. We don't have enough. Do you understand? So we're going to start with system strengthening. On arrival to this ministry, the first thing we did was we took a total scan of the environment to see what is in place, what do we have, which way do we go. You know, sometimes Ministry of Women Affairs is being confused for just like a happy years. We're going to strengthen capacity, not just for the ministry, but also for private sector players, because, you know, in some countries, when you say women, children, you're dealing with a very small number. When you say 50% of the population is women and children. In Nigeria, dealing with 100 of millions of people, so the government can't do it alone, so we need to build capacity, both within the government structures and outside, so that, you know, because the government can't be everywhere. We need to be able to reach women at every level. So we're going to be working multi-sectoral approach, and with the private sector, private players, to see that we kind of strengthen capacity. And that's why we need a lot of national agendas in every area of our operations. Secondly, we're going to work with concerted efforts. In this space, there's too much play. The gender lens is on two things: climate change and women. So a lot of resources go there. So you find a lot of partners accessing resources, and there's a lot of duplication of efforts. So it's very important that we work with concerted efforts. And that's why we'll have national agendas, so that every other person will key into our national priorities. So that will be done differently. The next one is resources. As you have seen, that there's a demonstration of political will and prioritization from Mr. President. There's an increase, over 1,000% of increase when it comes to allocation. People say it's not enough. I said it is unprecedented. It's never been done. So it's a starting point. Let's start from here. And secondary, and then lastly, we're thinking of other very creative initiatives around access to finance. You know, we're romancing an idea of having our own microfinance structure for women, so that women are able to access this finance. When you leave Abuja to any city in the outside of Abuja, you see women who are ready to work, to put food on the table, but there's systematic barriers. So when they have access to this finance and markets, they're able to do more. So we have plans for that. And we're also looking at a leadership, you know, academy or leadership institute, whereby women are being trained and mentored properly by industry experts on how they can be able to. So those are the different initiatives. And I also like to use this opportunity to thank Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Federal Republic, has played a major role in empowering women and families and the vulnerable people across Nigeria. We would like to also support in the areas of the Every Home or Garden. It's a budget line in our budget, so that we can support women's involvement in agriculture. Already, 70% of the smallholder farmers are women. And they kind of contribute over 80% of the outputs. So we'd like to encourage women so they can, because I know that we're a little bit of encouragement. Women, by having agro-processing and agro-entrepreneurial, you know, schemes around, women can be able to even feed. Nigerian women will be able to feed Africa, or even the world. So yes, those things we'll do differently. And then the second question was around protection. What is it that we'll do differently when it comes to protection? Firstly, we'll start by empowering our girls. During the last year's 16 days of activism, we launched a major boot camp for women in collaboration with the civil defense, teaching women self-defense. They must know how to protect themselves. So we'll start with the practical and basic things. We do have low-hanging fruits. You don't have to have a lot of money to collaborate with civil defense to teach girls how to protect themselves. So we'll start with the little things and then go for the bigger ones. And we're also reviewing our instruments so that they're relevant to today. As I speak to you, our 23-year-old Child Right Act is undergoing review. Our 18-year-old National Child Policy is undergoing review, and also the VAP Act. And all this, we pray, would give birth to proper protection frameworks and instruments for children, because we do not have a child development agency. That's something that I would like to put in place so that our children are well protected. And we're looking at also other incentives also, like the universal cash grants for children that will help the government, take control of a child so that they're properly protected, because it exists in every country. This is global practice. When the government looks after children, that is a no-go area. So we're going to come very clearly and spell out things and be able to also sensitize on the legal instruments so that people know, our laws, simplify them in simple terms. For example, now, if you even tell anybody as a house girl, I think the legal implications, but people don't know. So all these things, we're going to come out in simple terms so that the general citizens can understand all these legal instruments and the laws that protect them as individuals. The fourth question was around, there was a third question. What will you do differently so that this time around it doesn't get thrown out? Okay, it's been reviewed. It's undergoing review. There were some flash areas that we didn't agree collectively on. So it's undergoing review so that we can all have better success chances when we represent it. And we're going to consult extensively. The people voting for these gender bills to pass it, we know them, we know who they are. So we're engaging them, we'll consult with them, and we'll negotiate if we have to ensure that these gender bills pass through, because when they pass through, it will be revolutionary for women. And also we're doing the right kind of sensitization for other stakeholders so that they can also support the advocacy for the gender bills to go through. The fourth question was on family values, how our girls are behaving. And the ministry around family cohesion and advancement has been very silent. The mandate of the Ministry of Women Affairs is the protection of women and children, the advancement and development of women and children, family advancement and cohesion, and also protection of the vulnerable. Because of the name, Ministry of Women Affairs, so you don't know where all these are areas of the Beijing, the thematic and the Maputo protocols. So we do not have any family in every country you go. Families are being told how to behave. You can't leave a child under the age of 14 at home. In this country, we have not set it out, and that is what we're working on. We have a team working on family cohesion, manuals, and after the proper stakeholder consultation, we'll be launching those family advancement, and this will help us and work in collaboration with other agencies like the NOA, the Voice of Nigeria, to do campaigns that will help us to safeguard our culture and also our values as a people. I hope I've answered all your questions. Okay. It's an unfortunate incident that should not happen. Just like you rightly said, in the last assembly we had 9 senators that are women. This assembly we have 4. We don't want to be losing any member in the Senate or in the House. We want to increase the numbers. It's unfortunate. We're going to be brokering peace. We engage all the stakeholders to ensure that they temper justice with mercy. I was at the National Assembly yesterday at the Senate, where they marked the International Women's Day, and the last thing the Senate President said was that we're open to broker peace. So we're going to be the intermediary between the two parties to see that we broker peace, for peace to reign, and then we'll continue to also sensitize so that we learn to work better together as women and men. Thank you.
Thank you. That is that's Honorable Ministers, distinguished colleagues. Honorable Minister, I can tell you categorically that what just happened now has never happened in this place. And for our guests to be given a standing ovation and multiple layers of applause, I can tell you, it has never, I've been here for more than 10 years. It has never happened. So congratulations, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my dear brother, Mr. Tope. This is a very, very sensitive and critical area for all of us. We must work as a team.
Yes.
Trust me, when we get the issues of protection and women affairs right in this country, we've achieved more than 50%. Our intention is to ensure that we empower women so that we can contribute significantly to the $1 trillion goal of Mr. President, and we can do it. Women have the potential. Women are loyal. Women are diligent. Women repay their loans. So we're going to invest in the women so that they can be the voices across sectors. We do because we don't like shame, so we're going to repay our loans. Men don't care, but women don't want to be called out, so we're likely more able to repay loans. So yes, we're going to empower the women, but we need your support. We need you to help us amplify on the work that we're doing. We need you to report even responsibly. We need to put our best selves forward, our most patriotic selves forward, because we're building a nation. And I thank you all for the support you've been giving the ministry in the past.
Thank you very much. On this note, just before the special advisor caps everything, let me also acknowledge the presence of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Youth Development, Mr. Ojekwe, Dare Ojekwe. Yes.
Well,